Thinking about that Halloween night still sends shivers down my spine. The party was supposed to be fun, sweet, and innocently scary, but it turned into a nightmare that haunted me for years. The weeks leading up to Halloween were filled with excitement and anticipation. My two friends Jack and Sarah and I carefully planned our outfits. Turns out Jack was a scary clown with a scary mask, Sarah was a witch with a long crooked nose, and I decided to put on some mommy bandages. We figured there's no better place to go trick-or-treating than in a quiet, friendly neighborhood. The air is clean, the leaves rustle underfoot, and we walk down a dark street. The moon was hanging low in the night sky, casting long shadows, and we thought it was the perfect backdrop for a Halloween gift. Little did we know that our innocent search for candy would soon turn into a nightmare. While we were going from house to house collecting food and looking at clothes, we suddenly met him. A terrible, twisted figure appeared from the shadows, wearing a monstrous mask. It's like something out of a horror movie. I felt uncomfortable, and my heart started beating fast. We thought our neighbors were trying to scare us and tried to deny it, but the fear persisted. No matter how hard I tried, I felt like a masked man was following us as we continued our Halloween adventure. I saw him from afar or hidden behind a tree. It was like playing hide and seek. As the tension in the air grew, our laughter turned to whispers. We decided it was finally time to go home, hoping to put an end to our horrible encounter. But when I turned around, I saw a man wearing a mask 5 meters away. The mask he wore was very scary. He had contorted, scary, empty eyes that seemed to pierce into our souls. "You can't run away," he spoke in a hoarse voice. Paralyzed with fear, we were kicked out before we could react. Jack tried to fight back, but the masked man was faster and stronger. The scene was like a scene from a scary horror movie. Jack screamed in pain as the masked assailant raised the glowing blade. Sarah and I ran for our lives without hesitation. When we heard Jack's baying screams behind us, our hearts felt like they were going to burst out of our chests and a shiver ran down our spines. We didn't know what to do or where to go. While I was running scared, I found a neighbor's house and knocked on the door. We were greeted by a friendly old woman who lived there. He saw the fear in our eyes and let us in, and we called 911. The wait for the police seemed endless, and we felt helpless every moment. When the officers arrived, I described the masked man's actions and the horrific ordeal. But it's too late. The Jack we only imagined in our nightmares on Halloween night was no longer with us. The feeling of hopelessness and fear that Halloween night brought into our lives is something we still struggle with today. I will never forget the terrifying words the masked assailant whispered as he attacked us, the evil voice that still haunts my dreams. For me, Halloween will never be the same. It scared me forever and reminded me that even in the midst of innocent fun, darkness can sometimes lurk. Years have passed and I've tried to move on from that terrible night, but the physical and emotional scars remain. Losing my friend Jack has left a void that will never be filled. It is such a deep pain, and it has changed the way I see the world, especially during the Halloween season. After that terrible night, we were afraid. Parents kept their children at home, and once friendly streets were left in darkness. Police have launched a thorough investigation, but the masked attacker has yet to be caught, leaving our community paranoid. I haven't slept well in months. The creaking of the house and the rustling of leaves outside the window reminded me of that terrible encounter. The masked man's cold words echoed in my mind, and I couldn't shake the fact that he was still there, lurking in the shadows. Over time, Halloween became a distraction for me. The joy and excitement that filled the season was now replaced by trembling fear. I avoided costume parties and haunted houses because I couldn't shake the horrible memories of that fateful night. I tried to move forward, but the wound deepened. Halloween will be remembered as a night that began with laughter and candy, but ended in tragedy. Losing Jack was a constant reminder of the darkness that can lurk in even the most innocent moments. As the years passed, I continued to search for answers. I couldn't rest until I found out why the masked man took Jack from us. I worked closely with the police and private investigators. But the more we discovered, the more horrifying the truth became. It turns out that our attacker is not only a psychopath, but also a member of a mysterious cult that has been operating in our city for several years. Their twisted procedures often involved theft and sacrifice, and as Jack experienced on Halloween, ignorance became their victim. The communications of our community spread throughout the city, and their horrible actions were exposed and harmed. It was a painful reminder that darkness can lurk in even the most unsuspecting places. It closed a little, but it didn't relieve the pain. Halloween remains a night of horror, and the wounds of that night will never fully heal. Losing Jack was a constant ache in my heart, and a reminder that evil can creep into even the most innocent moments. It's been a few years since that terrible Halloween night, and I've moved on as best I can. Although the pain still remains, I have learned to cherish the memories of my dear friend Jack. We knew the darkness would strike when we least expected it, but our resilience and the love of those who support us get us through even the worst nights. Every year we spend the Halloween night in a cozy suburban house. My family and I watch great movies, eat snacks and cook dinner. As usual, we spent the afternoon carving intricate pumpkins, making spooky decorations and collecting various candies and chocolates. Little did we know that this Halloween would be unlike any other. After midnight, we laid on the couch in the living room and watched a horror movie. The twinkling lights cast eerie shadows on the walls, and our Halloween spirit was in full swing. Then I heard a faint scratching sound from the back door. The cacophony of the TV suddenly died, and I froze in anticipation. My father, who was the manager of the farm, paused the movie while listening to the terrible sound coming from somewhere. I think someone tried to pick the lock. My mother looked at my father and whispered in a trembling voice. My heart pounded as I confirmed his suspicions in a low, trembling voice. Yes, I tried to tell him that the noise was from a stray cat or some other harmless creature. Giving up seemed like the easiest way out. But he was shaking inside and out. He said he is not an innocent soul. The scratching continued slowly and deliberately, every second scratch becoming more and more frustrating. To my surprise, my brave father slipped through the back door and peered through the blinds without making a sound. When he saw what was happening outside, his face changed from curiosity to pure fear. "What happens? You can whisper, there are 3. My father answered in a voice full of fear. "Come in wearing masks and playing locksmith. I need to call 911. My mother's voice was shaking when she answered the phone. Panic and fear filled the room, and my sister began to cry uncontrollably. I tried to comfort her, but my own fears overwhelmed me. The thieves stopped trying to be clever and stopped picking locks, banging on the back door and threatening us to come inside. Fear coursed through my veins as the terrible truth of the situation was revealed. I felt helpless to see my family, the pillar of my security, in such a great situation. Call 911 immediately. Dad screamed, stopped, looked for his gun and ran towards us. My mom frantically called 911 and assured me the police were on the way. Now our only hope was to remain calm and wait for help. The minutes seemed like hours, and our anxiety grew by the second. My sister's screams filled the room, revealing our emotional pain. The robbers outside became more aggressive and knocked harder on the door. A menacing voice was heard asking me to open the door. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, I heard sirens wailing loudly in the distance. It gives us relief and a ray of hope. People who hack Siren heard about it too, because he suddenly stopped trying and disappeared into the obsidian veil of Halloween night. My footsteps became distant and I became anxious. The police arrived, their bright lights piercing the dark Halloween night. They recorded our statements and began a thorough search of the area, but the attackers left. However, when police searched the area, They found a discarded set of locksmith tools, which was an indication of the intruder's experience. There was still fear in my house, and I was surprised and grateful when the police came. Halloween, always a fun and scary night, has turned into a real horror show right on our doorstep. We knew that even if we survived, we would never have a carefree vacation again. We spent the rest of the sleepless night recalling the horror, unable to shake the feeling that the masked assailant could be anyone. In fact, Halloween has taken an unexpected and frightening turn, giving us a new understanding of safety issues and the importance of vigilance even on the scariest night of the year. Halloween has always been a magical night for my friends. We share a love of gothic style and a penchant for this season's spooky vibes. You are ready to put on your darkest clothes, go out and celebrate with lots of gifts. We had such a good time laughing, joking and stuffing our faces with sweets. As we went from house to house collecting candy and cookies, word began to spread. There were stories of evil masked figures walking around and behaving strangely. Some people said he was a clown. Others thought he was a mime artist. But we've come to regard these spooky whispers as nothing more than a Halloween marketing ploy meant to add to our nightly terrors. After all, Halloween is a time for trick-or-treating, so we decided to take advantage of the opportunity. Despite this uneasy conversation, we unanimously decided to go to the house at the end of the street. The decorations were the craziest, and we thought the candy store inside was the biggest of all. Hearts pounding, we began our pilgrimage to this terrible abode. When we got to the front door, we were greeted by a terrifying sight. It was a man wearing a bizarre clown mask that completely covered his face. It was a clown mask like we had never seen before, a mask created in the darkest corners of our crazy minds. The mask was painted with exaggerated, ominous features, and his eyes sent shivers down our spines as they passed through empty sockets with no discernible emotion. One of my friends, Sarah, captured this Instagram-worthy moment. He fearlessly approached the masked man and asked him to take a picture with him with a big smile on his face. But the clown remained silent, and his gaze was merciless. I had instinct to warn me of impending danger, but I didn't want to spoil the Halloween spirit of the group, so I hid my discomfort. When Mike tried to take a picture of our friend Sarah, the unthinkable happened. A masked clown suddenly grabbed his arm. His hands were playful and stubborn. Our group was in a state of panic as we watched in disbelief, frozen by the unexpected horror unfolding before us. With maniacal determination, the clown began to drag Sarah into a nearby dark alley, his blood-curdling screams piercing the cold Halloween night. Overcoming our fears, Mike and I grabbed Sarah's trembling form and rescued her from the mad clown. Her strength was amazing, and he tried to pull her back into the shadows where an unknown fate awaited her. Sarah cried and apologized while we tried to protect her from the clown. Our cries for help echoed through the deserted streets like the screams of ghosts in the night. Fortunately, the commotion caught the attention of some locals. They ran to help us, waving flashlights and yelling at the man who threatened them. Facing unexpected resistance, the clown frees Sarah, tosses her like a rag doll, and disappears down a dirty alley. After the unknown meeting, we were shaking and our hearts were pounding. When the police arrived, I gave them a description of the disturbing clown. They assured us that they would do everything possible to catch him, but warned us to be vigilant and stick together. Back then we weren't really interested in sweets or clothes. Our only desire was to return home safely. This Halloween night went from a whimsical affair to a terrifying ordeal. A wicked encounter was a reminder that evil forces can lurk beneath snacks and costumes. The identity of the man behind the mask will remain a mystery, but we can only hope that finally justice will be done and no one will be a victim of his evil. We returned home shocked but thankful to be safe, and the events of that Halloween night were forever changed. Memories of evil clowns haunting our dreams were also important lessons about the unpredictability of human behavior at night. When masks and masks hide more than their faces, Halloween has lost its innocence and has been replaced by the terrifying awareness that evil can appear at unexpected times, even during festive celebrations. In the weeks that followed, our friends struggled with the trauma of that dark night. We became reluctant heroes, our lives forever marked by the terrible encounter. It was a Halloween I will never forget, and a harsh lesson in the dangers that can hide behind the celebration and fun. The identity of the man behind the mask remains a mystery, but we are doing everything we can to make sure he is brought to justice. We are cooperating with the police and providing all the information we can to help him be arrested. A neighborhood that once came together in the spirit of Halloween is now working together to keep residents safe. The next year, as Halloween approached, we became more cautious and vigilant. The mood has changed, and the innocence of the celebration has been replaced by a grim reminder of the darkness that can creep into the happiest of nights. Our friends, still haunted by the events of that night, are determined not to fall victim to the evil figure lurking in the shadows. In the end, we may never find out the identity of the evil clown, but hopefully he faces the consequences for his actions. Our Halloween went from a night of magic to a night of horror, but it was a testament to our group's strength and resilience. Halloween was never the same for us, but it remained a night where we huddled together, determined to protect each other, and where the darkness would never overcome the light.